Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Story to Screen podcast, the movie podcast where we review all different kinds of movies, new and old. I'm your host, Chris, and joining me tonight is my good friend, Benjamin Curley. Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Hey, good, yeah.
How are things with you?
Oh, pretty good. Busy as usual, but that's about it, so.
Any projects in the making, or nothing new?
Some side jobs, resume building stuff, basically. But they're actually paid, so that's, even if they're just cheaply paid, it's still, still pay, technically.
It's still money, there you go. As they say in this country, every dime counts, so.
It's like, if I'm going to spend my time on it, I got to get something out of it. I mean,
yeah, might as well.
It may not be as much as I think it's worth, but as long as they know that I think it's worth something and I'm not free labor.
Yeah. At least you get something out of it, so. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is our review of the 1956 Cecil B. DeMille epic, The Ten Commandments. Now, let's go into weekly segments. Now, Ben, what did you think of Well, let's start off with Jurassic Park.
Yeah, let's work our way to the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I did not like the Jurassic Park trailer.
Yeah, for me, we'll see.
We'll see.
I mean, it feels like a lot of other just remake flicks lately. It doesn't feel uniquely like Jurassic Park. I mean, I'm afraid it's going to be a little too predictable, story-wise.
Yes.
It's like, okay, so we enter the park, they've done something amazing again, and what will go wrong? What natural disaster will happen to cause everything, or what sabotage will happen to everything to go wrong? Then everyone runs screaming.
Yeah, and it looks like kids again. I'm like, can we do a Jurassic Park movie where the kids don't have to be involved?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, Chris Pratt driving a motorcycle with a squad of raptors. God. That was pretty cool.
That was ridiculous. I'm sorry.
That was pretty cool. Come on.
I'm just sitting there and then, I didn't know. The visual effects shot did not look good to me for some reason. I'm looking at the shot and I'm like, there's something not right here. I don't know if maybe Pratt wasn't acting very well with his
I think
maybe. I don't know.
I think because this is such an early trailer, I think a lot of visual effects just aren't done yet. Because it didn't feel that refined yet.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I was happy to see that a lot of the things that I guessed at watching the teaser were confirmed in the slightly longer trailer. It's like, I went through with the teaser. I went through it. It's like, okay, frame by frame. It's like, okay, I see a park. I see a monorail. I started trying to guess what I would see later in the larger trailer, and it proved to be right. So,
I was happy to see an aquatic creature for a change.
Yeah, I know you've been looking forward to that.
Again, the trailer just didn't surprise me. It just felt like been there, done that.
It was kind of nostalgic, actually.
That's the problem. It felt too nostalgic. I had a feeling they were going to do that, but I felt like they were going to throw some spins in there that made it feel unique. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you want to talk about a hack? Here's another one I did not like. I did not like the Terminator Genisys trailer. Cool looking, I'll admit. But I
was excited to see the Terminator from T2, the cop with the metal. That was he really made that second movie. So I'm looking forward to him coming back. That T3 was.
Yeah, I didn't like T3, and I didn't like Terminator Salvation either.
Yeah, Terminator Salvation. I had some mixed feelings on that one. It wasn't too bad, but I almost felt the same way about it as I did the Star Trek reboot. It's just like they're rewriting some things, and I don't like it. But
I'll talk about rewriting things. Oh my gosh, they're just. I don't know what it is. This felt like the X-Men Days of Future Past of Terminator movies. Because they're basically combining the first two movies into one, and then they're going to do the whole Logan changing time thing with Terminator and Sarah Connor. And I don't know. It just felt like, to me, there is no genuine attempt at something original. Debatably, but...
yeah, not lately.
It just feels like, okay, guys, we need to figure a way how to fix this whole thing, because everything that's come after it has been just utter trash. So I got an idea.
I mean,
let's combine the first two movies together, find a way to bring in Arnold back so that way he can play the Logan role, and then do it in a way that James Cameron will be so proud of us, he'll be happy with the product, and he won't have anything to gripe about and all that stuff. And what we get is just, I don't know. It looks cool.
Yeah. It looks cool. It's going to be a great action flick. I don't think it's going to make the same cult following that the original Terminator films did.
If nothing more, it's wiping the slate clean for future Terminator movies.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the highlight. This was the trailer that I did like, and that was Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, or the Star Wars The Force Awakens. I have no idea what they're going to go for.
How they're going to title it exactly, yeah.
I've got to say, even though... Well, here's the thing. I was shocked that they showed as much as they did.
Same here.
I thought they were going to probably show maybe just a little bit, just enough to whet... And it does whet the appetite, but a little bit less. And I actually thought they were going to do, like the simple dark screen episode, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and that's it. Like, they would keep this movie under wraps.
Yeah, I figured, the most they would do, they'd have, basically that one scene where the Sith walks out of the ship and turns his lightsaber on. That's, the extent of what I was expecting to see. Maybe one scene with one Sith just kind of wandering through the woods or something, and not really show us any more than that.
Yeah. Now, I was shocked that none of the original cast members were in the trailer. Like Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher. I was kind of shocked that they weren't.
I'm not, because we know J.J. Abrams loves his secrets.
Yeah.
And one of the closest guarded secrets that he's going to keep right now is what our original characters, the people we love, what they look like now. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what we want to know most of, and of course, that's what he's keep closest. Yeah.
But other than that,
that's what really interests us.
Yeah. But other than that, I like the tone. It felt Star Wars to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was great to see the X-Wings. After all these years, I thought those were ships that I would never see on the big screen ever again.
Oh, I know, right? Makes me want to whip out the camera and it's like, all right, let's do a fan film.
Grab your Lego sets. Let me think. We finally got to see some of the new characters. Now, my biggest curiosity is who's that guy in the woods. That I'm excited.
With the epic light. Yeah, with that lightsaber. Yeah.
How do you feel about that whole lightsaber thing? I mean, I like it. I really do like it.
I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how practical that is. I do know that multiple Jedi and Sith had their hands cut off because they didn't have hilt guards.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's going to be some sort of function in this movie. Mm-hmm. You're going to see something that they're going to use this the function.
Yeah, and it looked just the blade type looked vaguely different. It looked more flame oriented than actual laser sword.
Yeah,
it had a different feel to it.
It looked very different from I've heard that. Yeah, it looked kind of different from what typically we think of other lightsabers, but. Oh, the Millennium Falcon, man! That when I saw the Millennium Falcon, that was the money shot. When the music just
and that was the one shot I had to step back and go, ooh, I'm not sure if I like it.
Oh, really?
That's actually a shot I had to watch the trailer twice to actually get into it. The first time watching through the trailer, I was very critical because what I'm watching for J.J. Abrams to ruin it with his stylized camera movements and lens flares. And when he starts spinning the Falcon around on its head, I'm afraid. It gives me a queasy feeling that he's going to do that with the rest of the film.
Okay.
But I went back and watched through the rest of them. It's like, no, okay, the camera's not that bad. It's pretty traditional, pretty stable. Okay, I'm cool with it. I'll go with it. And then I was on board after the second time. But
I liked it. I actually liked that shot. And the stormtroopers. Oh my gosh, the new stormtroopers looked awesome.
That was cool.
That was something. And I love the new design. And they always have this thing going on where
the T-shape and
like somehow the eye and the mouth are like always changing after a couple of years, you know. If you look closely with like the Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith and you know the stormtroopers in the original trilogy, they were always progressively changing. But yeah, I like the trailer. All I gotta say, it's got me pumped up for next year.
Same here.
Christmas of next year. This is gonna be an awesome movie, I think. So after a long discussion about two not so good trailers and one really awesome trailer, let's go into a really, really good movie, The Ten Commandments from 1956.
There was a time when the cinema was a place of spectacle and wonder, when unforgettable films played on gigantic screens that overwhelmed the imagination. Now that time has come again.
Behold his mighty hands!
Paramount Pictures proudly presents Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments.
Let my people go. Come to me no more, Moses, for you will surely die. So let it be written.
What you just heard was the original trailer for the 1956 movie, The Ten Commandments. It was directed by Cecil B. DeMille and starring Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner. Now, we're doing this review because this Friday is when the new movie Exodus: Gods and Kings opens up. And we thought that before we review that movie, or at least I do, I don't know about Ben, I wanted to review this movie and kind of talk about, you know, biblical fidelity, the film's merits, and even the movie's overall message about freedom before this new one comes out. Because a lot of people, actually, so far the reviews for Exodus have not been very good. I don't know if you've been keeping
that's expected, honestly.
But they've been really, the problem has been that the critics have been saying like it doesn't really capture what the source is, and none of it has been like, oh, this is another Noah. I have not been hearing that. I don't know what's going on with the Ten Commandments. At least for me, it's always been a childhood favorite of mine. Grown up watching this movie, and I would probably say of all the you know, the interpretations, the film interpretations of Moses. I mean, I know you've got the Prince of Egypt, and several other film versions of the story of Moses. I know that Ben Kingsley played the role in a TV series. There was one with Burt Lancaster many years ago, and there's been so many other ones. But I think out of all of those, this one has been, I think, at least for me, I think this one has been the more purest and the more truest to the form. Even though I think there's definitely some dramatic liberties that they took, I do feel like this is the one that really, really nailed it, and it knew exactly what it was trying to say, and it kind of presented it in a very dramatic fashion, but did it in a way that did it justice, at least for me. But Ben, what are your opinions on the film?
Same. It's a film, or very similar. It's a film that I grew up watching. It's a classic. It's one of the biblical epics that I love, and that I just long to see again. Honestly, it has to give it credit where it's due here. It has biblical fidelity that a lot of Christian films do not. It gives direct head nods to the power of God, when even other Christian films can't even get it that good.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, it takes creative license and artistic license in areas that I don't think it should have.
Okay.
I have no problem with artistic license taken where the Bible does not say something. Okay. But to take artistic license in places that the Bible very clearly says that something was a certain way, I have an issue with that.
Okay. What would you like to share what those specifics are?
Yeah. Hang on, I wrote a few of them down here as I was watching
Don't tell
through
me
it.
it's the men-hungry women.
Well, see, I didn't have a problem with the 30-year gap that that's not told about Moses growing up.
Yeah,
I had an issue with where it'd throw in scripture verses from other places in the Old Testament that don't exist yet. It took a lot of artistic license painting Moses in the exact same footsteps as Jesus.
Yeah. Is that a negative or is that a negative or a positive?
It's mixed because while I agree,
Moses was kind of a Messiah figure at the time.
Exactly, I agree that he is a shadow of Christ, but I think they went a little bit too far and made him a Christ for that time.
Prophecy and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man, I was going to read up Exodus last night, but I just didn't get a chance to. And I don't really recall there being a prophecy about a deliverer. I don't think there was one.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
in the Bible, I should say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what we do know is that we know Joseph expected them to leave Egypt at some point. That's why he made his children promise that they would take his body or bones with them when they left. Mm-hmm. And that's shown in the film, which is good.
I think a flaw for me is I think there's some really hammy dialogue in this movie. like there are some mouthfuls of dialogue that maybe makes you just twirl your eyes, I should say. And like him and Nefertiti are in their room together, and he says to her, a man stupid enough to use you for a footstool would not be wise to rule Egypt. I mean, that is a mouthful. Heston handles it with ease, but it is such an awful line. It is so cheesy. I mean, like...
Yeah, they were trying to build up a love interest and a drama in there. And I can appreciate that. Yeah.
But I've always liked that. I've always liked that part. I actually kind of compare the first act to It's a Wonderful Life because... when George Bailey loses the money, that's the part you're always dreading. It's coming. And every time it's coming, you're always thinking in your back of your mind, like, please, no, don't, whatever happens, don't lose the money. Because you know what's going to happen. With Moses, in that specific moment when Nefertiti kills Memnant, and when he finds the shawl, you know what that's setting him up for. And you're always, and at least for me, that's the part I'm always dreading because it's like, oh, but he's in love, he's so happy and all that stuff. I'm so happy to see him, have the girl. He has the kingdom of Egypt at his reach, and that's the part I'm always dreading because you know what is to come. You know that he's about to lose his power in Egypt and then lose the woman that he loves. But at the same time, it's setting him up for the greater part of his journey that he has to take,
Yeah.
Were there any other flaws that you didn't really like or...
Visually, Cecil B. DeMille did a very, very good job.
Oh, yeah.
I have seen, I've seen plenty of indie films these days that aren't half as good, even with their background matte painting and their compositing as that.
I mean, you look at this, it's like, this This is a 1950s movie working with the.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know that something is a backdrop. You know it's a screen back there, but at the same time, it fits with the environment quite well.
Yeah.
And it brought it all together really well, and just the use of the colors and the architecture.
Oh yeah, I mean,
really used to the fullest extent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do know that he did some actual architect work in Egypt just to get, to give it that authentic look.
But why are you forcing me to destroy you? What evil has done this to you?
The evil that men should turn their brothers into beasts of burden, to slave and suffer in dumb anguish, to be stripped of spirit and hope and faith only because they are of another race, another creed.
No, I've always liked the in this movie. I know there's been so many different depictions of the Moses and Ramesses relationship. I think this one is. I think of all of them, this one is probably one of my favorites. I think more so than like the Prince of Egypt, which was a more brotherly type of relationship, and I think the new one is kind of going along the lines of this one, kind of like a Jacob and Esau type of thing.
Yeah, pitting them against each other. Yeah,
but I've always liked this one because Ramesses doesn't really care about Moses. He just wants that throne.
Yeah.
Played wonderfully well by Yul Brynner, by the way, and I've always liked just this, at least from Ramesses' part, just this like competitive survival type of mentality, and he was always, and even when Moses was reaping up the fame and the glory, he was still like, I'm still gonna get this, I'm still gonna get what I want.
Yeah, very driven.
Very driven by his motivations. No one is gonna take that away from him.
Yeah,
and that's his flaw. That actually serves later on to be his downfall. At least, later on in the film, in the second half, because he thinks that as soon as he has that throne, he is the all powerful being on Earth. Like there's nothing else above him. He thinks that if he has that throne, he is powerful. Nothing can stop him.
It's a very stark contrast to Prince of Egypt. Honestly, I think Prince of Egypt did a better job emotionally than this film.
Okay.
I think it really, both of them, I see Ten Commandments definitely set up the visual style and stuff for Prince of Egypt. There's a lot used in Prince of Egypt that's borrowed from Ten Commandments. And one of the things that's used in both of them that I really don't see supported necessarily in Scripture is that Moses didn't know he was Hebrew. I don't see that in Scripture. I see it pretty clear that he knew the whole time he was Hebrew, or at least he was told growing up, and it wasn't a surprise sprung on him.
Yeah, I think the filmmakers realized, well, there's nothing here.
There's nothing against it, and
I think that's where the movie benefits from, taking some creative license, because it's like, why don't we make him totally oblivious that he's an Israelite, and then let that be something that he has to deal with when he does discover it. I think that works.
Yeah, that's just something that that's always stood out amongst most of these films, is that Moses very clearly is he's a former Egyptian. He thinks of himself as an Egyptian, and I liked the odds that the two brothers came to a head on in Ten Commandments, but honestly I think it could have used a little more emotional attachment, like in Prince of Egypt. Just a little more strings pulled, I think.
Yeah. Do you think they should have been a little bit more? There should have been more love for each other, or
may not necessarily, but I think there should have been a little more history shown between them.
What is this word?
Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, let my people go.
The slaves are mine. Their lives are mine. All that they own is mine. I do not know your God. nor will I let Israel go.
Who are you to make their lives bitter in hard bondage? Men shall be ruled by law, not by the will of other men.
Now, I know we've talked about some of the biblical inaccuracies. Look, there are so many inaccuracies in this movie that we can go through a
Well,
long...
that's the nature of taking something and trying to make it put it in dramatized form. That's just there is, and I accept that there are going to have to be creative license taken. I've got no problem with that. It's just, where do you take the license?
Yeah.
I have no problem with license being taken. It's just, there's places you can take it, and there's places that it's just stupid to take it.
Yeah. Speaking of stupid places, I mean, look, I'm sorry. The thing that the sore thumb that has always stood out to me has been just these women, the Israeli and the Egyptian women who are kind of like man hungry. I'm sorry. I kid you not. I mean, these women in this movie are these women that deprived of men that they can't find any?
Well, I mean,
and the women were like so gaga over Moses. I mean, Nefertiri.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say, but considering the time period, women's value was placed on their ability to bear children. Basically, their value was so. In light of that, I could see them being that way, where their goal is to get married.
Horny.
I mean,
a little horny.
So,
they're a little horny in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was played up for comedy's sake.
The sisters, I think, were definitely comical.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just funny. I mean, Nefertiri. I mean, well, look, Anne Baxter. I've always liked her as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
Her Nefertiri, I think, is kind of a Bella Swan. She's just cuckoo for Moses. I mean, she's like, every time Moses' name is mentioned, she goes into this like wide-eyed, like, oh my God.
That was pretty funny. And and Ramsey's there at the end. He's like, all you think about is him. Like, either she wants him dead or she wants him. It's all revolving around him. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Do you view her love for Moses as something that was genuine, or do you think it was?
Oh, I mean, love's the wrong word to use. I think lust is more accurate.
Yeah.
So no, I don't view her love as genuine.
I mean, when you're saying there to this man, like, as long as I get to worship you, and she's speaking from the perspective of an Egyptian, so, I mean, for her to see Moses, who is Charlton Heston in the flesh, I can understand why you would have a major crush on this dude, because he's like, and to think that he comes from the Nile god, maybe. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna fall in love with this thing, this guy right here. But yeah, I've that has always been like a sore thumb that's kind of stuck out to me, has been that performance. But I mean, I've enjoyed it. I mean, it's actually really, it's always been fun to watch, but but it's always one that just and then you have what's her name, the water girl, what's her name, Joshua's girlfriend.
Oh yeah, that was painful, actually. Yeah.
What was so painful about that?
Oh, it's just
Bryce was even after her. That's even more funny.
Yeah, I just it was a very forced relationship in every way.
Joshua was a good-looking man, so he might as well had to have a girlfriend.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, I know. I'm just trying to figure out what in the world, how that was relevant to the story at all. I don't know.
Well, I did like how they managed to use that as a means to set up Joshua as the Israelite that Moses saves, actually. Because in the scriptures it was...
True. There was once when an Egyptian was striking a Hebrew, and then that's the one he killed, and then immediately after that, there's two Hebrews fighting with each other. Moses comes up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then they're like, "Who are you to talk to us? You went and killed an Egyptian."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, who made you ruler over us when you're killing these guys too, or whatever, you know? And yeah,
it works because it brings the characters closer together.
Yeah, and that way, you know, that's one of the creative license that I don't have a problem with.
No, me neither.
It was okay. I mean, as long as you understand that it's creative license and not straight scripture.
Yeah, definitely. Now, there's so many other great things about this movie. I mean, you've got some really amazing, massive set pieces, and of course, you have famous, the parting of the Red Sea. I mean, that to me, I mean, it's really fascinating because you have, in reality, that was Heston and the extras against the blue screen. What I actually read somewhere was that DeMille actually shot this huge water tank. And then there was all these big water tanks, and they would spill over, and that's how he was able to capture that parting of the Red Sea. He was able to reverse
exactly.
them.
No, you could tell. Yeah, you could tell it definitely wasn't miniature work. Not extreme miniature work. You could tell it's like, well, there's, you know, that it's maybe not a whole sea of water, but that's a lot of water.
Yeah.
There that was composited in. Yeah.
But there's just so many of these magnificent screen moments that just resonate in film history. I mean, you've got God writing on the tablets. That was pretty cool. That would have been way cooler if they'd had a better voice for God, though. That was
so this
Heston,
very
actually.
silent, nebulous sort of, hello, I'm Pooh Bear, away beyond the grave, you know.
That was actually Charlton Heston that played the voice.
Yeah, it could have been so much better.
You didn't like it?
No, it was too wimpy. I think it should be like booming and powerful, you know?
Here's the I actually found out that God in the new movie is actually going to be played by a child.
Oh.
And he's going to be...
I heard that too. You're right. I heard that too. Yeah. They're probably trying to give it this, you know, childlike, innocent sort of voice, like a pure conscience or you know, aliens from another planet or something, you know. Trying to give it this sweet sound and feel. I don't know. Angelic sounding. I don't know.
So you have that moment, you know, and I think these are the moments that really are part of the scriptures. And I think these are the parts where DeMille nails it.
Yes, I agree.
I've always read somewhere that the second part is always the part that people tune in the most, television-wise.
Okay. No, you're talking about after the intermission?
Yeah, the second half.
Okay.
All the stuff with the plagues and the showdown between Moses and Ramesses.
Well, I mean, that's when the real action starts up, honestly.
Yeah. And that's where the real story really...
The scripture begins, yeah.
Yeah, that's where the real part... You've had all the drama, you know, all that stuff with Moses.
All the build-up, yeah.
Yeah. This is the moment where I think everybody in the world, you know, knows what is about to come, and everyone is excited to see how they deliver on this moment. And, you know, the 10 plagues, you know, they didn't show all of them, which I can see why, because I think some of them would have been technically way too difficult to...
Yeah.
I do know they did shoot the frogs.
Oh, really? Okay, and they just didn't. They cut it.
Yeah, I think DeMille... And they had all these frogs. I read somewhere that they shot it with Nefertiti.
Okay.
And the frogs were coming out of the water, and for some reason, it looked too comical. It wasn't looking real.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and DeMille was like, okay, this isn't working. I don't think the frogs were really cooperating with what he was.
Probably not.
What was your favorite plague scene? Do you have a favorite?
Probably... It's kind of a toss-up between the water to blood or the hail coming down. Both of those were really impressive. Probably the water turning to blood, though, was really impressive.
That's my favorite. That's
because that in every sense proves right there. It's like, no, this was no accident. This was a direct act of God.
Yeah. I liked
the water that was clean in the pot turned red. Yeah.
I liked how Yul Brynner plays it when he finally sees the water turning to blood. You could definitely sense this fear that something else is at work here.
Yeah.
But he is not giving in. And that's what I like about Brynner's performance. is that he is this rock that, for the moment that, you know, God is keeping firm until the moment that he does finally break him. You know.
Yeah.
See how it spreads. It is blood.
That you may know the power of the Lord. For 7 days Egypt will thirst.
7 days without water will fill every jug and jar. Pestilence will be everywhere.
For it's 7 times 7 days. No magician's trick will set your people free. Sacred water, make pure the flood from which you came.
One of the things I did want to bring up was this really has a very, very powerful message about freedom. It's obviously a movie about, the freedom of a nation, but I think DeMille, at least for me, was trying to reach for something really bigger with this theme, and I think it's a really broad theme as well. Now 1956. I don't know where Martin Luther King Jr. was at this point in time with his civil rights movement. I don't know if he was the prominent figure that he was when he during the 60s. I don't know if he had made a name for himself quite yet. But I do know that the blacks in the 1950s were still being looked down upon by society, and you can definitely get a sense that DeMille is in some ways maybe making a commentary on that issue, and I think that's a very and I think that's a very a pretty fair assessment to look at when looking at this film. I think that's something kind of easily to look at and say, okay, I could see him reaching for that. But I do. I think obviously he's making a comment on the freedom of society, but yet when you are free, you're not necessarily free to do whatever you want. I think he was obviously, a la the Ten Commandments. I mean, he was obviously saying that in order for society to be free, you have to set up laws for that nation. You can't just simply be, an independent, but there are still boundaries of which you have to keep or to abide yourself by. And I think that's what DeMille was trying to go for in this movie. And I think that's something very relevant to, the nations of today, or even in 1956. I mean, that he was definitely making a comment that in order for a society to exist, it has to have laws. And that's something that that has been going on for thousands of years. I mean,
a little bit. And that I did come away from the movie, and that was the one thing that's that kind of sat with me a little bit there at the end. I had to kind of figure out how I was going to take that away. It was very clear that he was forcing a equal rights to all men message into the film. And while I have absolutely no problem with that message, the Bible backs up that all men are created equal. It backs that up very clearly, but it doesn't back it up in that story. That story is not about equal rights. That story is about God choosing who He will and fulfilling His promises. And that is honestly my biggest issue with the whole film is that the message that Cecil B. DeMille was trying to force into it is not the message of that biblical story. That's the message that he put into the film, and the film says that. The film resonates with that message, but that's not the message of the tale of Moses leading the people out of Egypt.
At least my point of view, the story of Moses is more about this creation of a leader who is set up to lead the nation into bigger part of its own history later on down the line, setting it up as an independent nation later on.
Yes.
And of course, allowing down the line for Jesus Christ, the Savior, to later on come down the road. Now, thematically, there are so many things you can draw from that story thematically. Because and as you just said, yeah, there's not really an equal rights type of a message in that part of the story, and that's fine in the movie. I think that works. And I think that
I mean, the way you told the story in the movie, it works for that. It works for the movie there. Yeah, that's not the Bible's point of that story. It's more about God fulfilling His promises, fulfilling the covenant that He gave Abraham,
yes.
where he brings the nation out. He calls out his chosen people and he makes them a nation, and he fulfills the covenant to Abraham, and he sets them apart for his own. That's more of what the story's about than anything else. I mean, I agree. There's a lot of other things you can pull out of it, but equal rights is not the primary reason for that.
Yeah.
For the people out.
Yeah. At least for me, I will probably say, that I'm assuming Martin Luther was at this point in time kind of taking a rise, and maybe he kind of viewed Martin Luther King, hey, this is a Moses figure fighting for his own people.
I could see him trying something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure, knowing DeMille and him being the wise, very learned man that he was, I'm sure he was probably conscientiously aware of this figure, taking shape in the world.
Yeah, I'm sure he knew that was, well, that's where the culture was headed, and that they've had enough of this. That there's a change coming, and yeah, I'm sure he was echoing that.
Yeah, and in a way, you could say it's a movie foreshadowing that change in some way, even though it was about a specific story that took place in history. You can kind of look at it and say, okay, this is a movie that's definitely foreshadowing what is to come.
We will not live by your commandments. We're free.
There is no freedom without the law.
Whose law, Moses? Yours? Did you carve those tablets to become a prince over us?
Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come to me.
He showed you no land flowing with milk and honey. I show you a God of gold. Come with me. Follow me.
Blasphemers, idolaters, for this you shall drink bitter waters. God has set before you this day his laws of life and good and death and evil. Those who will not live by the law shall die by the law.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the film, but there's just so much here to discuss. There's a lot of good stuff, but I think we talked about the main points that I wanted to discuss about this film. Any closing thoughts on the Ten Commandments?
Very good film. I expect it to continue being a classic for many years. I don't expect anything to unseat it in that respect. And it's one that I always, want to reference when it comes to a biblical epic that turned out really well and still stuck pretty close to scriptures.
Same for me. I think this is the ultimate pedestal of what a biblical epic needs to be and always should be. Always you can make some dramatic improvements. You don't want a horny Egyptian princess, lusting after Moses. But I see this movie along the side of other great epics, like Lawrence of Arabia, Ben-Hur, Bridge on the River
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. Yes, this is definitely in that category of great epics, period. Well, we're going to go ahead and close it out. I'm your host, Chris, and thank you for joining me. I don't think you're going to be joining me for Exodus, right, Ben?
Yeah, I don't know. I do have some free Saturdays coming up. I might head to the theater and see it. Because I ended up getting a free movie ticket with my Regal Rewards. So I might, we'll see if I see it. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
So that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Chris, and as usual is Benjamin Curley at my side. Have a good night, everybody, and take care. And I, believe it or not, folks, I actually kind of forgot that we were recording a show tonight. I was in bed. I came home kind of late, and I was tired, and I'm like, okay, I just need to shut down for a little bit. And then I woke up. It's 8 o'clock. I completely forgot that we have a show to record tonight, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then we just check my computer on something, and then I looked up on my computer. Ben has a text saying, hey, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What are we doing tonight? Oh, my gosh, the Ten Commandments.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, man, I should just let him sleep. Then I could have had a neat... No.
I know, right.